back to the Checker Flag Podcast. I am co-host Drew, joined here by Nate. We'll be diving into the checkers and wreckers of Echo Park Speedway. Race 2 is under wraps, and we have a repeat winner in the first two races since, who was it, Matt Kenseth? Like 10 years ago?
2009.
Tyler Reddick. Back-to-back wins. Unbelievable start for 2311.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy the start that they're getting off to, especially with a winless car from last year. I mean, you can't do any better than what Tyler Reddick's doing right now, especially if we look number 2 in the standings is another 2311 car, Bubba Wallace, just setting him up there right at the top. So obviously feels good for Jordan, feels good for Denny. Denny's just got to get up there on the leaderboard himself.
I mean, here's the thing. They're two drafting tracks. Like, the points aren't going to matter at this point. The real test is when we're going to go down that stretch of Darlington, Martinsville, Vegas, Bristol, like the tracks that we're known to seeing the top competitors usually run up front at. But, what a great start for, 2311. I mean, after everything that happened with the lawsuit, we didn't know what to expect with this team, especially with Riley Herbst, being the bottom frag of NASCAR in the Cup Series. So, the fact that Reddick and Bubba are off to 1 and 2 in the standings to start the year, I think they're going to look forward to, the next couple of race weekends. That's really going to determine how strong of a start this team is actually going to have. But, we had some comers and goers throughout Atlanta. I mean, we had teams like JGR, like Christopher Bell was up front in contention for the win. Chase Briscoe was right there behind him. We had guys from Spire, Carson Hocevar, and Daniel Suarez again making a top 10 appearance at the end of the race out of nowhere. Definitely some highs and some lows of this weekend. But, wanted to first talk about, and I know, we're not going to beat around the bush. We got to address the elephant in the room, Carson Hocevar.
Yep.
I'm not going to lie. I loved what he did. I absolutely loved it. I mean, here's the thing. I've been a longtime Jeff Gordon fan myself. I literally had PTSD from that 2014 Texas race when Keselowski tried to fill the hole that wasn't there and got into Gordon and flattened his tire and ruined his championship hopes in 2014. I got trauma from that. It was not fun to watch. But the fact that I got to watch a Toyota go on the wall, that made my night. But, I'll stay impartial. But that's the moves he's going to make if he wants to win. He is the most hungry driver out there right now. I mean, you saw it at the 500. He was leading in the last lap. You saw it with Atlanta. He made a risky move that, costing him, got a little bit of fender damage. I don't think he had the car that he had the restart before. But, shades of Dale Sr. I mean, here's the thing about Carson Hocevar is, and quote unquote, he wants to shake and fucking bake. That's what he wants to do right now. And I think that a lot of these guys are in the mentality where if I rough a couple feathers, I'm probably going to get something back. Where Carson Hocevar expects that. He's expecting to get raced the way he's been racing. And I think that we need that in NASCAR. I mean, we need a guy that's going to rub some fenders. 8 tires are better than 4. And I think that, a lot of fans were unhappy with the moves that he did. And, shame on them. You're the reason why NASCAR is still falling, because you literally have the second coming of Dale Earnhardt Sr. and you're complaining? Like, this is literally what he did in the beginning of his career, before he got famous. So I don't know what people are upset for. I really like that move, and I think that Carson Hocevar is going to win this year.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying a little bit ago, when it comes to Carson Hocevar, he's like the kind of guy, like you were saying, doesn't have any friends out there on the track. He's not the kind of guy, he said it himself, he's not out there to make friends on the racetrack. He doesn't really have anybody who he's close friends with. We see a lot of guys off the track, like Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, their kids hanging out after the race, and, them going to each other's trailers and Halloween shows and stuff like that. But when it comes to Carson Hocevar, he's not the type of guy that's making friends out there. And you could really see that in the last laps of this race. Right, like when it came to Carson Hocevar making those runs at the end, there was nobody that was coming with him. He was moving up to the top, to the bottom. He was doing everything by himself. And even though he was by himself, he was still able to finish in the top 5. So props to Carson Hocevar. Props to him on the truck race, too. I mean, he showed some maturity there and pushing Kyle Busch to the win, noticing that his truck wasn't as good as everybody else's, but he had some real speed in this Cup car. So,
Yeah, no.
Yeah, go ahead.
Anyways, Carson Hocevar, I was actually about to talk about the trucks because I was watching that race, and It was crazy. I mean, a lot of those truck drivers were content with running up top, and I feel like that's just because the cars were loose. Hocevar knows how to wheel that thing. I mean, he was going into 3 and 4, he was going into two in turns 1 and 2. He was passing 3 cars on the inside before he came up and cleared him. And, what a weekend for Spire. I mean, top 5 for Hocevar, Kyle Busch, Hocevar top 2 for trucks. Like, that's the exact momentum this team needs getting into this season. Especially, shout out Kyle Busch. I know we've been itching for a win out of him. Sucks that it happened in a series below, but I'm sure a lot of fans are happy that Unk still got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
Kyle Busch has as much as I hated him growing up, I miss him in victory lane. I think that we need a Kyle Busch win to revive the sport, if anything. But
Yeah.
um, kind of going into some other top finishers. I mean, you had the usual, with Bubba in the top 10, Reddick wins, Hocevar's up front, he's gonna be aggressive, leading laps. Shout out Zane Smith, 2 top 10s in a row for the young lad. That's honestly, I'm not shocked by it. Zane Smith showed flashes of speed last weekend, and the year in 2025. I'm excited to see what Zane Smith's able to do coming into COTA and the next tracks because we see top 10s and top 15 flashes out of him, and, I think front row definitely needs some boosting because Gilliland and Gregson have not had the hottest start to the season. So at least there's a bright spot in front row motorsports. But you know, looking ahead towards Circuit of the Americas, obviously we're going to have different players in that race. So I'm excited to see what certain teams that typically don't run up front in races like that see what they bring to the table.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're gonna see a lot of new competitors at Circuit of the Americas. I feel. I mean, clearly SVG dominant favorite. Connor Zilish. I mean, when it comes to Circuit of the Americas, are we gonna see Connor Zilish take a run at SVG? I mean,
No,
he was able to do it in the Xfinity Series last year. I mean, I think there's a shot that he has that he might be able to run and actually be able to compete with SVG. He was the only one that was able to even come close to him in the Xfinity Series. I think he still needs some more experience under his belt. Needs to qualify well. He still needs to learn this Cup car. But I think overall, he's the one that's got the best shot at anybody to compete with SVG right now.
yeah, and I would agree and disagree. I disagree because Zilich obviously hasn't been running up front as much as a lot of these other drivers have, so he's not going to have the experience, the consistency. Obviously, we saw that in the Xfinity series, but a whole different car. But however, I would agree with you because he did race part time last year and he did race Circuit of the Americas. He was running 13th before Daniel Suarez, his teammate, took him out because Daniel Suarez, I don't even know what the hell was going on with that. But Zilish was running top 15, and that was one of his first ever starts in the Cup car. And, we've seen flashes of that. We've seen flashes of Corey Heim. Like, I'm super curious to see what this 88 car and team is going to do for, this upcoming weekend. Obviously, not getting the results that he wants, but, definitely some high hopes to look for. However, one thing I do want to talk about specifically is the Toyotas. And, we saw it at Daytona stage 3 when they just, obviously they were saving fuel and stuff, but they were all 3, 4 Toyotas were running up front in the bottom, middle, top lanes. So I don't know. Is Toyota the new favorite at these drafting tracks? I mean, it's 2 wins from Toyota at Atlanta and Daytona, given that obviously 2 completely different circumstances, but still, I mean, the Toyotas were up front. Bubba's been leading laps both races. Christopher Bell was in contention. I mean, is Toyota the new favorite at these drafting tracks?
I definitely think they are the favorite right now, clearly with them finishing so well in these drafting track style races. However, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. I think honestly, one of the bigger stories, not only Toyota, but where did Ford go? I mean, we saw Ford's dominating drafting track races last year. I mean, you see, Ryan Blaney winning the summer Daytona race. I mean, there was, I think it was Joey Logano was leading most of the Daytona 500 before everything happened. Everybody started wrecking. And now we're seeing the highest finishing Toyota at 7th this past week. I think that's a big
Ford,
story. Or sorry, yes, the highest finishing Ford is in 7th place this last week. But it's it's a big story to talk about. I mean, they were so dominant. They had the best package out of everybody last year, and they qualify well, but they just don't seem to have that long run speed that they had last year. I mean, another thing too is I think the Chevys really have brought it this year with their drafting package that they've brought to the table. They've had some really good speed moving forward, and I really think that the Chevys and the Toyotas are going to have a really good shot at being dominant at these drafting tracks.
See, here's the thing with Ford is if that caution didn't come out where Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell got into it, Fords were likely going to win that race. I mean, we saw it with the pit strategy. We had Buscher, Keselowski. I can't remember who else was a part of that pack, but once the cycle finished and the fuel was done, Fords were in front. And I don't know if they planned that accordingly based on the fuel saving that they did during that stage, or if it was, perfectly planned where everyone started, going down to pit road. They were able to spend a couple more laps on the track, get a little speed, kind of outpace the other people that went down to pit road. So, Ford was in contention, but, we're not seeing the numbers that we normally see at these tracks. And this has been a long theme for the Fords is they're able to lead the most laps. They're able to run up front most of the race. But when it comes down to crunch time, they're not clutch. You never see a Ford win. And it's tough for a manufacturer because, you get all the good pictures in the beginning of the race, them running up front, them running laps, and then all of a sudden, 5 to go, they're just nowhere in sight. So, I mean, Ford has the speed. They have, the teams, they have enough people to drive that momentum and win a race, but it all has to come together and it all has to do with that last stretch of laps. But excited to see what they're able to do at other tracks because we know Ford's been the best at drafting tracks. So to kind of see the fact that Toyota's kind of took that over for the first couple of races, super excited to see what Ford's got in these next couple of weekends.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the other thing I think we should be talking about too is, where are the big top three teams, right? The Penske's. I mean, clearly Joe Gibbs is up there. They were all up there. Penske was up there. Blaney was leading some laps, and then Hendrick was also leading some laps. But I mean, the top 6, 7, 8, those top 8 drivers, they're all from secondary teams in this last race. It's not like we're seeing the top 3 teams being able to get this done. I think it's good news for NASCAR that, we're not just going to be seeing those top 3 teams winning every race right now. Obviously, it is drafting tracks. So we got to take it with a grain of salt. But at the same time, I think that's one big thing that we could talk about too is the fact that we haven't really been seeing the speed out of those guys that we want to be seeing.
I would beg to differ. I mean, Kyle Larson was probably the best car at Atlanta, in my opinion, before he did that idiot move on SVG. He was the one making the best moves, running up front the entire time, and then he just took himself out. And, with Larson extending his contract to 2031, I mean, he is 13 years into his Cup Series career, and we're still seeing him make rookie mistakes. Granted, he's fast. That's how he wins. He's aggressive. And we saw that with the move down into the inside line coming out of turn 4 on the last lap of stage 2, but you can't be making mistakes like that, man. I mean, you just got a huge contract. You're just fresh off a championship. We don't want to see a slump out of Larson. And I know he was running up front for both the 500 and the Atlanta race, but it's rookie mistakes. I mean, you can't look like Hocevar when you've been here longer than he's been alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but I'm super excited to see, what Larson's going to bring to COTA. We know he's good at road courses. We know Christopher Bell won there last year. He's a part of the powerhouse team in Toyota. So, we got, I mean, like you mentioned, grain of salt. We can't base our opinions off 2 races, 2 drafting tracks. We're really going to kind of dive into who are the favorites later on into the season towards summertime when we have, the intermediates come through. So, definitely something to look out for with Larson being on a new contract. That might be a fresh start for them, but I don't think they need a fresh start considering they just won the chip.
Yeah.
But it's an entirely different track than what, COTA is an entirely different track than, what we ran at Atlanta and Daytona. So, seeing Tyler Reddick, win these 2 races, Bubba Wallace second in points. I mean, do we see them continuing their momentum coming into Circuit of the Americas, or what do you think?
In my opinion, I don't think we're gonna see the Toyotas. I think they're gonna kind of fizzle out over the course of the season. I think that they do have a really good drafting package right now, but we also, like we were saying earlier, we saw that out of the Fords last year, and it was really hard for them to translate that across other style tracks. They were really good at the drafting tracks, but at other tracks, it just kind of seemed like when they were winning, it was they just had one really good car or a couple of good cars, and that was about it. And otherwise, the Chevys and the Toyotas kind of dominated those races. Um, I really do think that the driving style, especially for a race like COTA, isn't going to be able to, be able to showcase what the manufacturer is able to do. I think that's going to be more of a showcase of what the drivers are able to do. Just with especially SVG. I don't think it matters if he's in a Ford, if he's in a Toyota. I feel like you could put him out there in a go kart and he's still going to go out there and dominate. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think it'll be really interesting. Like you were saying, once we get to these intermediate tracks, that's where we're really going to see what we can expect going forward. That's where we can start to see consistency out of these teams, and that's what really kind of stinks about the schedule this year, in my opinion. Is you got two drafting tracks and a road course to start off the season, so we won't really know what to kind of think of everything, make our real predictions until next week.
Yeah. And I kind of like that start to the season because, we talk about the wild cards of the playoffs. We had the Roval, we had Talladega. The fact that we're knocking some of those out at the beginning of the season where we can actually focus on, the roots of NASCAR is going to be something to look forward to for sure. And I know, we're praying not for a snooze fest for Circuit of the Americas. I know a lot of these NASCAR fans that tune into races week in, week out, they're probably not going to tune in this weekend because SVG. Oh shit. Um, he's in the house, the Aussie. He's just gonna leave. This is the rest of the pack right there, and then here's SVG. He's just kind of tootling away on his own. I think that SVG is gonna get a sixth consecutive road course win in a row. But who do you think's gonna kind of be up there with contentions? I know we mentioned Zilich, obviously young prodigy, looked great in the Xfinity Series last year. But is there anyone else that you can kind of see take over at where SVG is led?
Yeah, I mean, take over. I don't know if clearly he's the best road course racer that we've seen maybe ever. So I don't know if anybody's going to be able to take that throne away from him. But I do see some drivers being able to compete with him somewhat. I think AJ Allmendinger is one. Obviously, he's a road course specialist kind of guy. He was good at those tracks beforehand. He's just kind of tuckered out a little bit over these past couple of seasons. I also think Connor Zilish, he's got a really good chance, but at the same time, his experience just isn't there. Um, the other one that I really like, kind of a hot take, just because of his performance at the Roval, is Kyle Larson at these road course style tracks. I think he's got a good shot. He's been in this car, he's had the experience, and he's got the driving talent to be able to compete with somebody like SVG. It takes somebody being able to. I was watching a video the other day of SVG is one of the only drivers that's actually using the clutch, and then there's a theory that's going on behind that about how just that little bit of using the clutch is allowing him to not chirp his tires and allowing him to save his tires a little bit more than all the other drivers. And I think that, from what I had heard, is going to be something that's really hard for any other driver to be able to just pick up on and learn. Like that's going to be something that takes a couple seasons for, these other drivers to be able to actually start to practice that and be able to be efficient enough at it to beat somebody who's been doing it his whole life.
Yeah, and I mean, SVG, his first ever start at Chicago Street Course, he won that race. And he beat out Justin Haley, who was running second. Like, what a run for both of those guys. But, that was 3 years ago at this point. So you would think these drivers would look at the research, look at what SVG is doing differently to outdo the competition. Obviously we've seen a different braking tactic out of SVG where he kind of, doesn't fully push down on the brake. He kind of eases into the corners. That could also save tire. I mean, you saw the fact that he's one of the only people in the Cup Series to use the clutch. I mean, that's outdoing the competition right there. Finding ways to outdo SVG is going to be how you win the race against him because there's no one that does it better than him. So if you find something that works, use it. But if you find something that doesn't work, look at what SVG does differently because that's going to be the standard of NASCAR and road course racing. We need someone to take what SVG is doing but, definitely. I mean, we saw Christopher Bell won last year. I mean, granted, it was SVG's first road course start full time. Was still getting used to all the races that happened before. I'm liking some of these guys you mentioned with Larson. I think he's gonna be solid. Dinger We know his only career wins are at road courses. Michael McDowell's only wins are at road courses. Like we'll definitely see them up front. Not leading laps, I'm sure, because SVG will be 13 seconds ahead. But my dark horse pick is going to be Ty Gibbs, and the reason why I say that is because of Mexico City. That was a brand new road course track that no one's. I think the only person that was there was Kyle Busch when he ran it in the Nationwide Series back in the day. Like Ty Gibbs was leading laps. He was running up front. He was outdoing SVG at a time for a time. And I think if Ty Gibbs wants to make that next leap into his career, he needs to get a win and he needs to outdo SVG. I mean, anyone needs to outdo SVG. I'm getting sick of this shit, man, but
Yeah, I mean,
I'll
even
relax.
like, yes, I mean, I do like that pick of Ty Gibbs. I think from what I'm looking at right now, it looks like he finished second to SVG as well in the Chicago Street Race last year too. So I mean, it's a good pick out of you with Ty Gibbs there. I think he's got a good shot at it. I think my biggest takeaway from this is just going to be the talent differences. I think a lot of drivers are studying SVG and they know what he's doing different than everybody else. I think the biggest thing is who can adapt the quickest and who can overcome these little these learning curves that they need to do to be able to compete with SVG. I think this year we're going to see a little bit more competition out of some of these drivers that are more well-rounded, more polished, and we might see somebody be able to compete with him a little bit better this year. I don't think it's going to be nearly to the extent of what it would be to take away 3 wins from SVG on these road courses, but it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward, just how drivers adapt and develop themselves to be able to compete at these kinds of tracks.
Going into, next week, obviously talked about some picks, some dark horses. Obviously, we're not going to pick SVG to win the race weekend because, that's basically like taking candy from a baby. But, you know, looking back on our pick'ems, how'd we do?
Believe I won, right?
God, dude, it's
'Cause
two in a row.
you took McDowell.
What did he say?
Hey guys, post editing Nate here. I just wanted to let you guys know that I was a complete and total idiot. Drew took Ricky Stenhouse, not Michael McDowell. That being said, Denny Hamlin did finish 13th, and Stenhouse was a DNF, so I did still take the point. Just wanted to preface that before you see this next clip. I believe I took Hamlin, right?
When the hell did I say McDowell? Did I pick McDowell?
Pretty sure you picked McDowell.
Where'd they finish?
McDowell?
Where did Hamlin finish?
Hamlin finished in 13th.
And where's McDowell?
20th.
Dude. Fucking hell, man. All right. Anyways,
So,
you're up 2-0 on me, which is, off to a slow start, but granted it's a drafting track. I mean, it could have went either way, but, kind of looking into this week, I'm going to stick to my dark horse pick of Ty Gibbs. I like his road course style. He typically is the one that's battling SVG. Granted, he didn't really finish that great at at Circuit of the Americas last year, but, I think we need to see a leap out of Ty Gibbs. I think him and his crew chief are going to find a way to get it done this week at COTA.
yeah, I like that pick. I think I'm going to take Connor Zilisch. I think it might be a little bit early to take him, but I've got a little bit of a lead right now, and I think he's gonna be able to take his first shot at being able to finish up in the top of the pack. I know there was times where he was racing in these drafting tracks. He got unlucky, had some rookie mistakes of the drafting tracks where it's easy to make those rookie mistakes, but I think he'll be able to overcome some of that, qualify well, and have a good finish. That being said, I think we can get into our top tens for the week.
I'm
My
not.
top.
I'm not doing 10. I'm gonna do 5. We'll
Okay,
we'll, we'll cap it at 5.
Okay, you could do 5, and I'll do top 10 because I got two new entrants that are coming in at 9th and 10th. My number one clear, just won back-to-back races. Got to be Tyler Reddick. Moving forward, my number 2 is still William Byron. While he hasn't had the longevity and he's gotten unlucky at some of these tracks, I feel like Byron's one of those guys I got to keep at the top. I think he's gonna figure it out and be able to start racing better as the season goes on. At number 3, I got Bubba Wallace, just because He's sitting second in points right now. Has won a stage and been fast at all the tracks that we've seen him at so far. I like what I'm seeing out of these 2311 cars, and I think that it's going to keep going forward. Number 4, I've got Chase Elliott. He's kind of sneakily made his way up at number 3 on the point standings. And I think he's going to be one of those guys that has the longevity to make it to where he's. Jeez. I think
Sorry.
he's got the longevity to where he's going to be able to make it in throughout the length of the season. You know, he's one of those guys that'll be able to finish top 10 consistently, and I think that's why I've got him right there. Next at number 5, I've got Kyle Larson. Obviously, Kyle Larson, Cup Series champion last year, would have been the Cup Series champion this year with this points format. So I still got him in my top 5. Number 6, I got Ryan Blaney. Kind of been quiet this year, but quietly is sitting in 8th in points right now. Had a couple decent finishes in the past 2 races, so it's what's kind of propelled him to be in that 8th spot. Next, I got Denny Hamlin, another just proven driver. It's been out there, raced for a while, and really knows his stuff when it comes to everything NASCAR. Next, I got Chase Briscoe. I'm hoping to see him start to pick it up throughout the course of the season. I mean, he did finish second last week, so I think that's going to really help his numbers. But I think throughout the course of the season, we're going to see a couple wins out of that 19 car. Number 9, and we're getting into some of my new entrants into the top 10, is Ross Chastain. I got Ross sitting at 9th, just because he did finish top 3. He is my favorite driver, and he had some speed at Daytona as well, led some laps, but got unlucky. I think Ross has got to put a full race together, and I think that's what we just haven't seen out of him yet. But I really do think that Trackhouse is showing some really good speed right now. And then rounding out my top 10, I got Carson Hocevar. He's sitting in 4th right now. The only reason I got him so low as 10 is because I don't know if we're going to see this longevity out of Hocevar. I think he's off to a good start. I just don't know if he's going to be able to keep it going throughout the course of the season. Then honestly, my honorable mention for this week is going to be Shane Van Gisbergen. Got a top 10, number 6 at this drafting track. Was running well in the Daytona race, and clearly this week he's got COTA coming up where he's the clear-cut favorite. So those are my top 10 with my honorable mention.
That is not a bad top 10. That's probably the best list you've given this week. Honestly, last week though, but that was kind of just whatever. But I do like all your picks. I think that I'm gonna switch up a couple of people. Got some hot takes. Number 1, I am going to put Bubba up there. Bubba did lead a majority of the laps at both Daytona and Atlanta. I think he led the most. He has the most laps led on the season. Granted, we are going into a road course. That's usually his weakness. But with the hot start to the season, I think that their 2311 is going to drive that momentum. And of course, you got to have Tyler Reddick, number 2, solid road course racer. Had his first ever Cup Series win at a road course in Indy, or maybe it was a race before that. I can't remember, but it was. He's been solid at road courses, and I think that he's going to continue the momentum he has with another top 10 coming up next week. And then number 3, I am going to put Chase Elliott up there. We saw this out of Chase Elliott last year. Up until the Atlanta summer race, he had a top 20 in every single race. That's consistency, and that's what Chase Elliott has specialized in the last couple of years, is his consistency. And we've seen him quietly jump up in points for the last couple of weeks. Obviously, ran top 5, was going to win the 500 if Tyler Reddick did push him. But, Circuit of the Americas, I mean, Chase Elliott built his, the start of his career off-road courses. He was most dominant in the Gen 6 car. Curious to see what he does at COTA next week. Number 4, I'm going to throw SVG in there. We know how good he is at road courses. Coming off a top 10 at an oval, second top 10 of his career at an oval. My goodness, I cannot speak. SVG is going to likely win next weekend at COTA, but just want to throw him at number 4 because the guys ahead of him have more momentum than he does. Rounding out my top 5, I'm gonna throw Blaney in there, and I was deciding between Blaney and Larson, but Larson is wrecking himself out of the races. He's not putting himself in contention to win. We're seeing Ryan Blaney steadily and quietly work his way to the front, avoid the big accidents. He's a guy to watch out for, especially at road courses. He's super underrated, in my opinion, at these road course events. And we saw that at Watkins Glen last year when he finished second from SVG. But honorable mention, obviously, Kyle Larson, was up front for the 500, up front at Atlanta. He's known. He's won in this generation car at road courses. He knows how to get it done. We'll definitely see him up there. But that'll round out my top 5. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I think that I have the better list, and I'm staying completely unbiased to what Nate's list is. But, let me know what you guys think down below. But, kind of going into, picks, let's talk about fantasy a little bit. Who you got in the garage and who you got starting?
Yeah, for me this week, we got to put SVG in there. I think goes without saying. SVG is clear-cut favorite to win this week. I got to use my pick on SVG. My next pick is going to be Connor Zilisch. Just kind of a hopeful pick. Obviously, he's ran well at these kinds of tracks in the O'Reilly Series, I guess Xfinity last year. But he ran well at those kinds of courses. I think he beat SVG on one of these courses in that series, and he was the only person that was able to beat SVG straight up. So I think he's got a good shot at it this week. We'll throw AJ Allmendinger in there just because of his success at these style tracks. My next one is going to be Ty Gibbs. I like that pick out of you for this fantasy week. Obviously, with his finishes at these road courses, finishing second a couple of times last year, I think he'll be a good addition to the garage, or not to the garage, but to the starting lineup there. My next pick is going to be Kyle Larson. He's going to round out my 5 for this week. Clearly, like we saw him in the Roval, was able to compete with SVG at times. Just didn't have the longevity, but was still able to finish up there and up in the top at these road courses in the past. Then to round out, I'm going to throw William Byron in the garage. Let's see what he does. Give him a shot. I feel like he's ran well at some of these kinds of courses, but it's just maybe not his specialty. But he's always one of those guys that kind of finds his way up to the front. So I don't know what you think. What is who's your fantasy picks going to be for this week?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw a lot of known good road course racers that we have in the Cup Series. I'm just gonna get it out of the way. SVG, Dinger, McDowell. Throwing those in my garage. Jesus Christ, in my starting lineup. Road course ringers know how to get it done at Victory Lane and get. What the hell am I saying? Victory Lane. Know how to get it done at road courses. But the two that I'm gonna throw in there as well. Toyota's Christopher Bell won there last year. Obviously was running up front at Atlanta. They have some momentum on that team. They were running good. And then obviously Ty Gibbs. He was my pick to win this week. I'm definitely gonna throw him in my starting lineup. But obviously there's a lot of good racers that we could throw in there. But on my bench or in the garage, I'm gonna throw Austin Cindric in there. And I'm not gonna go further on that. Austin Cindric knows how to wreck a good car. That's the best way to put it.
I mean, he had some really good speed this last week too. I like seeing that 2 car up front. He's been needing something like that.
Yeah, I mean, and Cindric is, I don't know if he's not in a contract year, but I think his time's running out at Penske. I mean, we know Logano and Blaney are known champions, known winners. We haven't seen that out of Cindric. He's a one and done kind of guy. Gets one win, just calls it a season. That's all they look for. So, definitely curious to see if Cindric is gonna, take the next leap that Carson Hocevar and Ty Gibbs need to take. So we'll definitely look into that down the road. But, that's going to do it for the Checkered Flag Podcast, Episode 3. Shout out Dale Sr. Rest in peace. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please feel free to like and subscribe. Follow all of our media channels down below, TikTok, Instagram, you name it. Nate, any final words?
Just excited for some racing this week.
Yes,
boogity,
sir.
boogity, boogity.
Yes, sir. Turn fast. Go. Wait. Eat ass. No. Wait. Turn left. All right. Later.
Later.